lovelies. You know, I'm always trying new things. I've got my two screens, Instagram, Facebook. Facebook, I'm doing a long ways tonight. I don't know if that'll work, we'll see. But I thought, you know, if you don't try, you won't know. I'm just adjusting my thing, and I know it's back to front in Facebook screens because they don't, you know, do the reversing thing. Hello, Nick. Hello, a few people are on. Tonight, I'm cooking something super simple. So I'm going to cook, it's called, well, I don't really know what it's called. I've just invented it. It's basically it's chicken, bacon, and cabbage with some sour cream. I'm just going to grab, I've just realised I haven't got my meat chopping board. Here it is. Separate one for meat and veggies, and I'm doing the meat first. So, how have you all been anyway? How's lockdown going? It's all a bit fun, isn't it? Not. Hello. Hey, Nick. Hey, Catherine. Susan, gorgeous girl. How are we all? So, I've got my wocky pot thing here. So, I've got my new wok. Oh, weighs a ton. It's not a wok. It's a, you know, cast iron flat pan. I'm still not loving it, but I'm going to give it a crack. I'll move it over when I finish chopping. Hello, Gillian. How are you? Oh, did you hear that big that's my coffee machine. So I'll just turn this pan on anyway and get it cracking. So I've got some free-range bacon from our cow, which I stopped it for a little while because I had too much meat. It was all coming out my ears. But I've reinstated it, and I tell you what, for those people, this is what happens. Hello, Lee. People come in and they say, oh, I just can't get organised. I can't get organised, and that's what's stopping me. Well, you know what? What we need to do is reduce any barriers. So if I can order a box of meat that just rocks up every month without me having to do anything, then that's what I'm going to do. And it means that every now and then, you know, I might have too much or not enough, but the majority of time I've got stuff in my fridge that I can then just fling together in some sort of meal, which is what I've done tonight. So even, I think I was talking to one of our members at about 4 o'clock, a little coaching call. She goes, what are you cooking tonight? And I go, oh, I don't know yet. I haven't had a look in the fridge. So I have a look, and then I just make something up and back. So basically, I'm going to start with some chicken thighs. They're already, our cow is, you can order, because I like the idea, if you can. Now, look, nothing has to be perfect. If you're going to Safeway and getting your chicken thighs from there, that's fine. You know, for me, it's a pain in the bum to go into Safeway. I can just order this box of meat and it'll arrive. And I've got the luxury of being able to order some organic stuff. But, you know, if that's out of your price range, it's still perfectly fine just to order whatever meat suits your budget. You know, people go, oh, but you know, is it... Now, obviously we want to try and be cruelty-free. So if we can do some free range, that's nice, especially for pork, because pigs, I think, their farming methods are woeful in Australia. But, you know, if you don't have organic chicken, it's okay. Okay, if you've got grain-fed meat, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It is way better to eat meat that you're cooking than, you know, pies from Herbert Adams, for example. You know, I'm pretty sure that their quality of that is not ideal. Alani, how are you? Popping in from South Africa. Tell you what, I'm pretty excited because real life medicine has become a little bit international. So, as you know, I don't want to bang on and bore you, but you know, we've got the 12-week Mind Body Rebalance opening, starting, yay, on Saturday. And we have some participants who are from America, from Canada, from New Zealand, and of course our very own Alani, who lives in Australia but is currently in South Africa, and I know she will be. So let's just say South Africa as well. We're now international, so I'm excited about that. Yes, Nick, steak is better than a donut. Absolutely. That should be a bumper sticker, I think. Certainly one of our matches. Maybe I'm going to do that. My knife does need sharpening, Helen. You're absolutely right as I'm hacking into it. I've got a sharpening stick thing, but that needs to get to be to be replaced. So lockdown crap, hanging in. You're hanging in. Yes, I'm actually okay this week. It's funny, isn't it? I think like a lot of things, when you're in lockdown, your mood can come and go. You can have sort of moments of despair, thinking, oh my God, this is never going to end. But I'll give you a hot tip. I've said this a few times, but I've recently gone through again. I have just unfollowed and potentially unfriended people that are not really my friends that are on Facebook. That are not really giving me happy vibes. Okay, because I understand that everybody is upset about lockdown. God, we all are. I mean, I've just cancelled my holiday that I was super looking forward to. I've got a daughter in year 12 who's not really managing lockdown that well. We're all sick to death of lockdown, I get that. But I don't want to hear ranting. I hate people that just get on and rant about it and don't have a solution. It's easy to rant. I'm going to try chopping these. How's this? This is a good trick. Oh, Caroline, how are you, gorgeous girl? So I'm just, I'm going to hack up the chicken. Again, nothing needs to be perfect. I'm just chopping this up with my scissors because my knife's blunt. So I think that has made a big difference to me. Not always looking, we all spend way too much time probably on social media, but just people moaning about everything. Everyone's got different views, but I don't need to listen to moaners, and neither should you. So the other thing is that I also, I've got rid of a couple of news apps because I just kept looking at the numbers, wanting to make sure, and you're looking at the numbers because you're looking for hope that, you're going to somehow get out of lockdown. Well, at the end of the day, it is what it is. So I don't really need to be looking at news apps every day, all day either. Okay, so I'm just flinging that rough as ready chicken in there. Just turn down my pan. Oh, can you see there's a bit of steam? I'll bring this over when I get a bit closer. Now, the key, which is why I've actually got the scissors out, the key to cutting up bacon is to use your scissors. Certainly don't use your blunt knife. Just going to turn that down a bit, it's getting a bit hot. So, as I said, for bacon, it's funny, when I first started low carb, it was like, oh my God, I can have bacon, and everyone just wanted to hoe into bacon like it was, like it's some guilty pleasure, which it was, because in the low-fat lifestyle, bacon was like a sin. If you ate bacon, you were some sort of heathen. So, of course, we all want to eat bacon. But you know what? After you've eaten bacon for a little while, you kind of, it's not as exciting. So I'm just chopping this straight into the pan. What I might do is move this and move my pan over so that you can see that I'm just chopping this straight in. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And basically what I'm going to do is get a bit of this bacon fat melted, and then I'll be able to caramelise the... Also realised I forgot to put my onions in. I'll be able to caramelise my cabbage. So, just trippity top. You can definitely tell that that I'm not a cook. I don't claim to be a cook. I've never done cooking school. I rarely follow recipes, and if I do have a recipe, I usually make some adjustments. So I think what I want to show you is that you can certainly eat real food real fast without worrying. It doesn't have to be perfect. Basically, you can't bugger it up unless you burn it. So I'm just chopping in. So that was a kilo. It's a kilo of chicken, and how much bacon? Half a kilo. Half a kilo of bacon is going into this. And remembering at Real Life Medicine. Oh, you love our podcast, Joe. Thank you. Thank you. I would really love it. If anybody hasn't anyone hasn't listened to our podcast, it's called Real Health and Weight Loss. And if you could, when you listen to it, if you're listening on Apple, if you wouldn't mind giving us a review, I would so appreciate it. Because what it does is it puts it up the list of, world's best podcasts, and then helps other people find it. And obviously we want as many people to learn this low carb lifestyle as much as possible, but more than just low carb, it's also you know, that whole thing we call the mindset, undoing all your dieting stories, all that diet trauma, all that idea that everything's about being perfect, that if you're not doing it perfectly, then you're rubbish. If you're rubbish, well, then what's the point? All of that stuff, all that all or nothing that we love talking about. And again, if you're seeing me chop this up, God, anybody who's a chef's probably turning in their grave, but that's all right. I don't proclaim to be a chef. I'm just cooking family food. Well, it's actually not family food because, as you all know, my kids are vegetarian. My food keeps freezing. Oh, your feed keeps freezing your food. I think, no, I don't think anyone else's is freezing, and I'm not having any trouble at this end. So maybe it's your internet, Karen. Not sure. But my internet for once is working. Podcast is great when walking. Oh, thank you. How do you do a review? Oh, Spotify won't do it. Spotify, you can't do a review. It's only Apple, so that's okay. But thank you. I really appreciate it, Joe. You know, and I guess if you just share it on with your friends, that would be really helpful to us. We keep wanting to, basically we want our podcast to get out to as many people as possible. This week we actually interviewed a lady who I love very much called Susan Hammore, who is one of our gorgeous members, but more than that, we call her our wise owl because she is full of wisdom. Why are scissors better to cut bacon? They're just easier. If you've got a really sharp knife and you're some sort of zing, it's easy, but if you haven't, then you just chop it up in, and it just chops. Just going to turn this up a bit. I'm still learning how to cook with cast iron. I've learned that if you cook it too hot, everything sticks to the bottom. I've learned that if you don't season it properly, everything sticks to the bottom. But I think I'm getting the hang of it. So it might take me a little bit longer to cook. So basically, in this giant pot, I've got a kilo of chicken, half a kilo of bacon, and I don't know, whatever, a third of a packet of onion, of these, you know, frozen onions. Now I'm just going to move that out of the way while I chop my cabbage. So, I'm sneaking out of my screen. One of the things I want to talk so I have two things. I've got a lovely Q&A coming on, so lovely, do you like that? A lovely Q&A coming on Thursday night, which is just going to be me chatting, answering questions without cooking. Because when I'm cooking and trying to answer questions at the same time, sometimes I get a bit distracted and forget to do things like put the spices in or even completely finish the meal. But anyone who's got any questions, so some of our common questions that I'm going to answer are, you know, one of the favourites, what is the difference between low carb and keto? Is keto safe? What about my cholesterol? And what if I don't have a gallbladder? They would be the most common questions, I reckon, that we get asked. So certainly if you've got any others, please come along and I will answer them. I'll be in my little office without chopping. Now the other thing I did today, which was really quite fun, which I love doing, is I recorded another hypnosis. So tomorrow is the first of the month. And for those of our Momentum, which is our monthly program, we have a new thing each month. So next month, in September, it's called Strength Timber. And what the idea is that because particularly, you know, once you're over about 30, you actually start to lose muscle mass. And it's really important that we keep as strong as possible. For many reasons. Strength training is incredibly good. It means that we can improve our metabolic rate if we've got a bit more muscle mass. It means that if we're insulin resistant, pre-diabetic, type 2 or type 2 diabetic, that we improve our insulin resistance. Who doesn't want to do a bit of that? When we're stronger, so particularly strong in our core and our legs, as we age, it supports our joints. So it means that if we were to turn quickly or just catch your toe on a rug, you don't fall over. And I can't tell you the number of people who I see really, them as they get a bit older, that's sort of what undoes them. is just the tripping over a rug. And they trip over and they break bones and ankles and all sorts of things. How's this for cooking? I've just found a giant bit of chicken, so I'm just going to chop that up a bit. If we have questions for the lady doing the strength, yeah, absolutely. You can send the questions through. Absolutely, Jill. And what's going to happen is we're actually running live Zooms with an exercise physiologist, beautiful low-carb exercise physiologist, Kimberly, that we know. And she's going to be, how's this for wonderful technology? She can watch people on their Zoom and check their form. I mean, it's so good to have somebody be able to give you real feedback in real time who's an expert. So I guess if one thing the pandemic has given us, it's given everyone more confidence to use Zoom, even though sometimes it feels boring to do everything in your whole life on Zoom. It does actually open up a whole lot of opportunities, which then comes to my mindset really about thinking, the way we think about things. So it's really easy for our brain. In fact, our brain is hardwired to think, oh, Nick bought a kettlebell. Just be careful with Nick with your kettlebell, because there are quite a lot of injuries to our sacroiliac joints. So they're the bits at the back that come from lifting kettlebells if you're not absolutely even. And we're often not, because we often have one hip. You think about it when you stand, a lot of people, and I'm doing it right now, stand on one hip like that. Or they hitch on another hip like that, because you've got a preferred one. So always when you're doing stuff like that, you need to make sure your form is that you're even. So, and this is part of the reason why gyms have mirrors, even though most of us hate looking at the mirrors. If you're doing exercises at home and you haven't got anyone to check your form, then make sure you're in front of a mirror. And the other thing to remember, and this is a bit like last week, I think, when I was rabbiting on about too much of a good thing, is that sometimes, because of the way we're kind of hardwired to do better, be good, we will push ourselves to do, a certain number of reps. And when we get tired, we wobble, our form loosens, and that's how we get injuries. So it is always, I know that we're often told, just go one more. But if your form's changed, then don't. You better stop, and you better to, just work on it a bit, each day. So sometimes less is not more. Oh, good. Well, my pan's certainly going okay. I'm just waiting for this bacon and this chicken to brown up a bit. So, just shove it over there. I haven't got, how normally I like to have a little bit of a rainbow of veggies. I've got my cabbage, and all I could find was half a capsicum. Everything else in my fridge was green. I thought, I don't want any more greenery. So, and I used all my mushrooms last night when I made chicken satay. So I'm just going to chop up a little bit of this red capsicum over here while that's cooking. I'll just move this. Oh, my colour suits me. Thank you, darling. Oh, Marilyn, that's really kind of you. It is. It's a good old jumper. It was, it's a cotton sort of thing, I don't know, from some shop, Jeans West. And I thought, well, and then I'm wearing some earrings. I don't know if you can see them. Oh, lovely. Patient made them for me a couple of years ago. And I put them on today because they've got teapots at the end of them. And as you now know, I'm totally obsessed with tea and all things to do with tea, pots, cups, different flavours. So I thought, right, I need a bit of a pick-me-up, a bit of something to cheer me up, because I was getting a few lockdown blues. So I thought, well, I'll just harness my inner tea, wear some tea earrings. So for those of you who have just joined us, I'm cooking, well, I don't know what it's called. It's chicken, it's fried chicken, bacon and cabbage with some sour cream. So, and I'm just throwing in a bit of capsicum. So basically, over here I have fried up my bacon. It's all looking quite lovely. I love fried cabbage, and I used to do it with butter, and I would still do it with butter, but there's enough fat in this bacon. So remembering with your fat, strength is all about protein. We want lots of protein, and honestly, we need to be aiming for roughly 1 milligram per kilo of body weight. So if you weigh 100 kilos, you need 100 grams of protein a day, and meat has roughly 22 to 24 or 25 grams of protein per 100 grams. So 100 grams of chicken, let's say, has roughly 25 grams of protein. So you can see you actually need quite a bit. You should, if you're eating a few meals a day, you should have divided between each meal, so that each meal, if you're having 3 meals and you're having 100 grams of protein, then each meal should have 30, and maybe a 40 or something like that. Or if you're just having 2 meals, it might be a 40 and a 60. Again, that's if you're 100 kilos. If you're less, then obviously you have a bit less. Eggs have 7 grams, give or take. So 3 eggs is about 20 grams of protein. By the time you then add in some cheese, again, about 20 grams of protein, 25 for cheddar, a bit less for your heavier fat cheeses like Camembert. Right, that's taken forever. That is now done. Now, I'm using this one tonight. You can use whatever spices you like. If you just want to use some sort of, herbs, whatever those Italian seasonings are called, you can do that. Oh, this is a new one. It's exciting. I must have used up my old one. But I do love the dill and garlic one. I think, unfortunately, you can only get that from the website. So if you just at Coles, I think I'll just do that anyway. Hopefully nobody saw me stabbing it. If you just at Coles, Woolies have now got them too, and they've got actually a few more flavours than Coles. Yay, hooray. So again, that makes my life happy, and they do have, I think, Woolies have got the green and red curry. So that's always good. So, or you just order from the website, that's what we do. And in fact, we just did a big order because everybody who bought the 12-week Mind Body Rebalance last week gets a starter pack delivered to their door. Yay. So, I don't know, a sprinkle of that stuff on. I'm now gonna give that a bit of a stir. This looks good. If you wanted to, if you don't like the rind on your bacon, and I must say I don't really like it, probably should have chopped it off, I didn't think about that. You can cut it off beforehand, you can just peel it. Basically, here goes my cabbage and a little bit of capsicum. The other veggie that goes really nicely with this meal would be some mushrooms if you like them. And I would normally like a bit more capsicum, but anyway, but I don't have any. So far I haven't left out anything. Oh, I'm going to tell you this little secret for me. I don't think Mingle put enough salt in their flavourings, and I suspect it's to try and keep compliant with the recommended salt guidelines, which, as we know, for a lot of people are not very necessary. If you've got super high blood pressure that's difficult to control, then you probably need to restrict. But for most people, once they reduce their carbs, they can certainly have a bit more salt. So I'm just going to put the lid on that, and that's just going to cook its little head off. So hoping to watch the rest of this later. Excellent, Jenny, you can do that. Tea is a good thing. Yes, I'm totally obsessed with it. In fact, I've got a new batch coming. So I think I get all my deliveries to work now because we live in rural land, and nobody delivers parcels. You have to go to the post office man and get them. And he's a bit funny. 2 things that bother me. Because again, with my muscular dystrophy, I can't actually carry boxes, and he won't help me out to the car. So that's sort of a little bit annoying. So I get it delivered to work. And also, you have to go to the post office in post office hours, and that's not going to work for me. So anyway, I've got a big batch of tea coming, and I got some little fancy canisters, because again, we're going to treat ourselves in a little bit of lockdown. And remember, okay, so here's the deal with the treat word, because the treat word is well and truly entrenched in our brain and our society as being food. What are we going to have for a treat? What sweet treats should I have? Oh, lockdown, I need a treat, okay? So this is the deal. I want you to think about this. For me, a treat has to be rare, has to be luxurious, has to be indulgent, and it has to be expensive. So this is how treats came about. So sugar became a treat back in the very olden days because It was rare. It was hard to find. And in fact, it was a sign of affluence if you had rotten teeth. Because the only way to get rotten teeth in the olden days was to be eating sugar, and the only people that could afford sugar were like the gentry. So where do you order your tea from? Well, at T2 this one came. So I've got a few companies that I do, but I got a little voucher in the mail. So I thought, in fact, a little voucher. It was $50 voucher that they just gave me. So I thought, excellent, I'm going to order some tea for that. And then I also ordered some canisters for my other tea. But I'm really happy to support lots of Australian companies. I've got to be saying that some of T2, some of their tea's a bit shabby. It's, got additives and flavours, and I don't get any of that. I just get straight tea. So back to the story about the rich people with no teeth. So sweet stuff was a treat because nobody could afford to have it very often. But of course now, sweet stuff is cheap and it's freely available. And it's not very luxurious. And, we'll do a cooking show on that, Joe, good idea. And it's very, very available. So therefore, things like Mars bars and stuff, it's not really a treat. It doesn't fit the criteria. Remember the criteria: rare, they're not rare. Luxurious, not really. Indulgent, cheap. It's not expensive. So therefore, buying fancy tea for me, that's my treat. And think about that, because at the end of the day, you're worth it. You're worth, spending a bit of money on. Your body's worth spending some money on. I'm just going to shrink down this cabbage. Make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of this supposed non-stick cast iron pan, which, as I said, I'm sure I'll get used to it. I know it doesn't have, bits of Teflon sort of floating into me, which the other one did, but bloody hell, I'm going to tell you, the other one was a hell of a lot easier to cook with. It was just that there were bits of stuff that was floating off. Okay, that's better. So I'm just giving that a little stir. Good. So when you start thinking about a treat, think of it like that. Think of it as something rare. So again, if it's something like rare and fancy, think of it as fancy. So it has to be rare, it has to be fancy, it has to be indulgent. Okay, so, and this is another way to think about things, right? So let's take a handbag, for example. So you can buy a green shopping bag for 99 cents. And what does it do? It transports things around. Or you can buy fancy, over the shoulder or classy handbag made of leather with matching something or other. And that can be anything from, $100 to $5,000. They both do the same thing, okay? So when you're thinking about some of this processed food, it's the equivalent of a green shopping bag. So, in fact, here's a green shopping bag. It's very handy. But I'm not going out to dinner with this. I'm not rocking up to my fancy restaurant with this as my handbag. Because, I'm worth more than a green shopping bag. And so are you. So your body wants good food. Beautiful. Good food is a little bit more expensive. It doesn't want cheap, nasty food. So remember, separating that idea out of food and what's a food and what's a food product, because I can tell you that, in fact, Marilyn, while you're on here, so some of my peeps, and this is probably encouraged by Lynn, one of our members, have been doing the CGM, so the things on your arm. You can wear a little monitor, you wear it for 2 weeks, they're moderately expensive, but they give you a really good insight into what food does with your blood glucose. And people will do it and they'll do a little test. This looks good. So they'll test. I'm going to put the lid back on for a few minutes just to really get that, cabbage caramelised. So you wear this monitor, you can wear it for, 2 weeks. It's about $99, $90 or something. And when you eat something, you can see what your body's reaction to it is. Now, here's the deal, right? So they tried some pies, like a meat pie. You are fancy, rare and expensive, Carolyn. You are definitely a treat. So meat pies, just got some from, the supermarket, I think. Blood sugar goes up. Then they went and got one from a butcher that was handmade by, you know, some local person. And blood sugar went up a bit, but not nearly as much. So the ingredients in the products matter. They really do. And as much as you can, try and get rid of processed food out of your diet. It really helps your health, and it really is important. Again, for our kids, I know we give our kids these cheap savoury shapes and barbecue shapes and packets of blah blah, but it's not helping them. So, you know, and they're not treats because people have them every day. They have them every day because they're cheap and nasty. So this idea that if you can, try not to use food as a treat. It's not a reward. Use non-food rewards. You know, again, for adults, it's like tea. You can buy whatever you like. I buy the, you know, teacups. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, I've got one over here. I'm back. So having a cup of tea out of this, I mean, it's fancy. It is fancy sitting down to have a cup of tea out of this compared to having a cup of tea like out of this old mug, which is some Happy Easter mug. Or even worse, I've got some really shabby mugs in there that, you know, this cost about $2. It's not nearly as exciting or fancy as this. So, you're fancy, peeps. You be fancy. So now, last bit here, I'm just going to stir through some sour cream. It's ready to go. So, tell you what, the side of those pans is hot. So here now thinks that they need to be a bit fancier for themselves. Spend your money on fancy things, not cheap, nasty, you know, $1.50 Mars bars. Or, you know, and this is again, so we're marketing so clever, just grabbing a spoon. You know, those favourites, you know, they're always on special. They're always half price. We go, oh, what a bargain. But you know what? We're fancy. I'm not buying, I don't buy those. Well, I don't buy that stuff anymore anyway. My children still do, so one day that'll wear off. But you're fancy. And you deserve fancy, and you don't deserve cheap and nasty. This, my friends, is delicious looking. Stir that through. So I just, you know, 2 big dollops of sour cream at the end. And that, my loves. Now I'm just going to show you this without burning my hands. That is fancy. Alright, darlings, I'm going to go now. You need to stop carrying around cloth shopping bags. No, I know, you can carry them around to do your shopping, but you wouldn't go out to dinner because you'd take something that's a little bit fancier. So, have a wonderful week. I will see you Thursday night, 7:30 it is. I'll be in my study, so I'll be able to concentrate. I'll have my 50 screens going. I've got a list of questions that people have already asked. If you've got anything that you want to ask, go and find the post and put a comment on it, and I will ask it in advance. Or with my, you know, multimedia screen thingy, I should be able to keep on top of who's asking questions, because really, it is confusing and we don't want people to get confused. We just want you to get well. All right, lovelies. Have a wonderful night and I will see you Thursday. Bye, darlings. I have to come around to turn this one off. Still waiting for that film crew. I'm still here.